Welcome to West Virginia and Commonplace. Today I have a very, 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 and I mean very, very special guest. I met this person through Instagram. It wasn't in my DMs. It was just me looking at something. Um, and she does a very special job for people that have podcasts. And her name is Lisa. So Lisa, please tell everybody your name, even though I said it, and tell them a little bit about yourself.
Hello, my name is Lisa Sheeley, and I am a virtual assistant specializing in folks that have podcasts. And that is my specialty. And thank you for the introduction. That was very nice.
All right, all right. So with everyone that comes on West Virginia and Commonplace, I keep things organic, like we've been friends forever, because I consider you a friend now. We've talked a little bit here and there.
Oh,
The,
yeah.
the one thing that I go on, and like I said, I always talk about being from Virginia or West Virginia with this, is people from country places, like you're from a country area in the,
Mm-hmm.
the flat tornado area, I like to call it. Maybe,
Yeah.
you know, we all develop an intimacy with people. I don't know if you develop it that far in the Midwest, but in the South and the North South where I'm from, we develop this intimacy. Like, so I can talk to you, and then once we become personable, we're friends. Nothing more.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so getting into what you do, I call it a professional podcaster virtual assistant. What day, what time, what year did you get inspired to do this?
So, almost exactly a year ago, I was living in Memphis, Tennessee with my husband. I'm originally from Northern Indiana. I was born and raised here and lived here my entire life, except for the last 4 years of my life, where we moved to Memphis for my husband's job. Well, last year we decided to move back, and I had the opportunity to keep working virtually for my employer that I had in Memphis. So that was my first taste of being like a virtual assistant. So I worked with that agency up until about February of this year. And then I'm a huge podcast listener. I'm listening to 10 to 15 podcasts any given week.
Whoa.
Um, it's one of my, yes, it's one of my favorite things to do. I take in content and information by listening to it. I was listening to a podcast, and the host was looking for a virtual assistant to help out with her podcast, and the rest is history. I've been working with her since April, and I really love it.
Okay, so what kind of skills do you have to possess to do this job?
Well, I think first of all, you have to really love podcasts, the medium of podcasts. You have to have a passion for them, and then you need to want to help people. And I think those are the two most important things. After that, it's really just a matter of a personal skill set that you happen to have. So basic like internet knowledge, computer knowledge. It kind of just depends on what that podcaster is needing for you to do. I mean, I certainly don't know how to do every little thing that might need to be done, but someone else might. And so it kind of just depends on what the podcaster's needs are, and if I or another virtual assistant can fill that need.
Okay, so when you're working on these podcasts, the nature or the let's see, what's a better way to put it? The subject of the podcast, does that ever influence how you work creatively with the podcast?
Well, I mean, if the podcast is a subject or has a topic of that is of a personal interest to me, obviously that's always nice, but it's certainly not a requirement, because I'm just there to do a job and provide a service. I don't have to have a personal interest in the topic, but it's nice. But it doesn't affect the work I do or the quality of the work.
Okay, you're out here, you've met with someone, you decided to take them on to work on their podcast. What are some of your favorite softwares to use?
So in my work, I use WordPress, and I use WordPress WordPress to write show notes for episodes. So I listen to the podcast and then I basically type out what it's about and put the podcast into a readable format. So WordPress is a big one. I use Canva a lot. I use Adobe Spark a lot. I use MailChimp to create newsletters. And then I use different softwares like Asana and Slack to keep track and communicate. And then, of course, all the social media platforms as well.
Okay, now with the software that you just named, where did you get that skill to use this stuff? Like, was it something in college? Where did you learn how to work with that software?
So for WordPress, I was trained how to work in WordPress by my current podcast client. She actually kind of taught me how to use it or how to maneuver around it. But I also had to watch some YouTube videos to figure out different things. I had never used it before. When it comes to things like MailChimp, I did that in previous jobs, writing newsletters. I've done that for a long time. And everything else is really, I just hear about a product that's being used. I go to the website and research it, watch YouTube videos if I have to. I mean, everybody starts somewhere. Everybody has to learn, that first time. So just a lot of asking questions and things.
Okay. All right. I like that answer because you with roundabout, you kind of said you do tutorials, but then you learn and then you make it your own, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So let's go into another detail. All right. I'm a podcaster and I jump on Instagram. And that's how I found you on there.
Uh-huh.
But let's say because there's some podcasters that do not advertise on Instagram. There's some that stay strictly to Facebook, whatever else isn't out there, Patreon, which is a paid service or whatever it's called, OnlyFans, different things.
Mm-hmm.
They got all kinds of crazy things that they use. So how does a podcaster contact you if they want to find me beyond Instagram?
So I currently I guess the word advertise, I don't know if advertise is the right word, but I only have a social media presence on Instagram at this time.
Okay.
I don't have a website yet, and I don't have a Facebook page, although I am present on Facebook within various groups that are aimed at podcasters. And
Okay.
yeah, so other than just simply coming across me or hearing about me word of mouth, it would be difficult for a podcaster who is not engaged on Facebook or other social media to find me. It would be kind of difficult.
Okay, so definitely Instagram is where they can find you. So let's talk about the social media platforms that you do like to work on, or you do work on.
Mm-hmm.
What's your favorite platform to work on?
I think I like Instagram the best. I think that it's the easiest to create different social media graphics for. I like that you have different options between, you can post like a story, a reel, or just like a picture. It's probably the funnest one to work with. And behind that, I also like Facebook a lot.
All right. So one thing that we do on this show, and I don't know if you listened or not, because you listen. I ask everybody something about them that nobody knows. Or if you have a hidden talent. So now, Lisa, you are on Front Street. You have to let us know something.
Oh my gosh.
Because everybody has something hidden or something. I'll go into a little spiel real quick. There was a rapper that came on my show that can actually, and I'll send it to you on Instagram later, remind me to. He can solve a Rubik's Cube in 45 to 60 seconds.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
I told him that he's a genius. I said, I don't know what that kind of brain power is for or what you can do with that brain power, but I said, you were amazing to me. I was like, I look at Rubik's Cubes, don't touch them. I don't. If I spin it around, it's going to be ruined for life. It'll never go back the same. I just got to go to Walmart, buy a
Yeah.
new one, or Meyer, and buy a new one. So, what do you have for us?
Gosh, I don't know. I wasn't expecting this question. I don't know. I'm a really fast reader. I can read an entire book in a day. Um, I don't know. That's something people don't know about me that I suppose is a good talent to have. Um, yeah, other than that, I'm sure there's like other goofy things, but
All right, so
I
you're
guess being
okay. So basically, you're an accelerated reader.
sure.
Were you ever
Yes.
part of the Book It program with Pizza Hut and get a little pizza when you were a kid?
Yeah, I was. That was like the highlight of my life was to get my little pizza.
Okay. Not to get too personal, but since we're already diving into this, what is your favorite book as a child? What was your favorite book?
Um, I I really liked reading Little House on the Prairie.
Oh wow.
That I, yeah, like that was a series that was always around my house. My mom read those books to us kids, my brothers and sisters, and I always really liked reading Little House on the Prairie. And I hardly ever see those books anymore.
That's crazy. I thought you were gonna come with something like Ronald Dahl and say like James and the Giant Peach or something, to that extent.
No, I liked Little House on the Prairie, and then like the older I got, I read other books like The Babysitter's Club.
Okay, just different things. Okay, so there's a young lady and she has a normal job, but she wants to make some extra money and she wants to
Uh-huh.
get into your profession. What would be the advice you would give that young lady or that young man or whoever? How would you tell them to get into this profession that you are in?
Well, I would say the best thing to do is to do some research on, like, if you want to be a virtual assistant, try to nail down what your specialty is going to be. You don't have to have a specialty, but it really helps you to focus yourself. So, like, my specialty is podcasting, others specialize in social media management or bookkeeping or just it could be anything. And then from there, really get on platforms like Facebook and TikTok, believe it or not, and Instagram, and try to absorb as much free content as you can before you start to pay for classes and tutorials and things. It can be really tempting to want to buy all the programs and fall down these rabbit holes of endless research. There's so much to take in, but I would just start slow and small, figure out what your specialty is going to be, and then try to find as much free content as you can. And then just go with it and get started. Even if you don't have everything lined up perfect, just put yourself out there.
Okay, so this will swing into my next question. What would be some strong advice that you would give to a podcaster? We're doing a scenario here. Say like we're talking about my podcast or just anybody in general. What advice would you give me if you noticed my podcast wasn't doing well? Because that's essentially part of your job too, right?
Yes. So if okay, so the first piece of advice I would give a podcaster is to be yourself. Don't try to be a different podcaster. Be who you are and talk about things that interest you, and your people will find you. People that are interested in what you talk about will find you. If you start to drift off into other topics or subjects that you're not really interested in, that will come through in your voice and in your show. So be yourself, do things that you care about. When it comes to, like, if your podcast was not doing so well, I would just kind of work with you to figure out, okay, what is the reason? Let's figure it out and then develop a plan to try to overcome it. And sometimes it's going to be things out of your control, but sometimes it's not. So it just kind of depends on what the issue is. If it's reaching other people, downloads, then let's talk about getting yourself out there and doing more engagement on social media. It kind of just depends on what the issue is, but you just got to kind of figure out what's going on.
Okay, that was a good response. Okay, now
Okay.
this question is something that gets told to me. What I do, because we're about to go into business together, and I said that on here first, guys. Um,
Okay.
I do different type of tactics to figure out how a podcast is going to go. Okay, so say like I'll get someone that I'm going to interview. I'll ask you for a picture. I'll put together something real quick. Everything has to be very simplistic but advanced at the same time. Because I'm trying to make everything pull all your senses. So, for instance, you doing this interview and your picture being posted on my Instagram, a few hits here, I get messages that you never know about, but I know about them. So,
Mm-hmm.
the thing that I'm trying to get around to, because I've beaten around the bush, uh, it's very insane that just I posted you about 3 hours ago, probably. You've already garnered questions from people like, "Who is she? How do I get in touch with her?" Blah 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 blah. Even though they see your podcast, I mean, they see your picture, they can go to your podcast. How do you, because like I said, you do this for a living or part time. How do you market? How do you stay creative? Like just with your simple picture that you sent me. Not saying that you're simple, but I'm just saying that picture. Put it in black and white, throw it together with some kind of meme maker, and just put it up there. How do you figure out what's the best way to go with marketing something? Like if you have to, if you're doing something simple, not all the technical stuff, you do like a picture. What would be the perfect picture, in your opinion, to market if you're just starting your podcast?
So I think what you want to do is you want to have either an actual logo that you use or some kind of other consistency, like you always use the same color scheme or you always use the same background or something. So I would start there. And then who is your audience? That it's important to know who your audience is, because that will influence the type of like graphics that you make. Certain social media graphics are going to appeal to like younger generations or older generations or males or females. So you want to think about who your audience is and how to reach them. And you might have to do some experimenting. You might try certain things and they don't work and others do, or certain things might work for certain subject matters on your episodes and others that they don't. So things like marketing your podcast and creating your social media graphics and getting in touch with your audience, it's trial and error. It's a lot of trial and error. Eventually you will figure out like what works and what doesn't. But if you're just starting out, just try something, go with your gut. It's not going to hurt anything. It's like no one gets hurt, nothing's wrong, if it doesn't work. But it is a trial and error process, and it's not going to be perfect for a while. It's going to take a while.
Okay, that was a really thought out and great answer. So, the next thing, like that, like we talked about earlier, like I talked about, people saying don't be concerned with success, but be concerned with having a successful podcast. And I think that was reiterated with what you just said. Um, the world is waiting and wondering, when are you going to have your own podcast?
Probably never. I I love podcasts. They are my favorite thing to do. Um, I will listen to one any chance that I get, a peace and quiet. I just want to like put my earbuds in and listen to something like a topic that I really love. But there's nothing that I feel compelled to have my own podcast about. I have thought about it in the past, but like at the end of the day, I was like, I would rather listen and work with a podcaster than have my own. So I don't know. Maybe someday I'll change my mind, but right now I just prefer to be in the background.
Okay, but the world's still waiting. And
Okay.
another great thing to always remember is, you're a personality. So being a personality, you can't keep that bottled from the world. Okay.
I'll try not.
Okay. Now, once again, I would like to thank you for being on the podcast.
You're
Um,
welcome. Thank you for having.
and just to plug your business, because I always tell everybody, you come on, it's a mutualistic thing here, nothing parasitic here. Plug where people can find you on Instagram.
Okay. So I'm on Instagram at It's Lisa Sheeley, and Sheeley is spelled Sheeley. So that's where you can find me on Instagram, or you can email me at lisamsheeley@gmail.com.
Okay, so my next question, before we get off of here, is: are there certain operating hours or anything? Because like I don't have operating hours. You just message me and I get back to you whenever. I'm probably one of the fastest people to get back to people, but do you have any operational
Yeah.
hours?
Yeah. So, like you, my work is like a passion project. So I have a full-time job that I work Monday through Friday during the day, which I love. Um, it's like it's my day job is very important to me, but I am available, in the evenings and on the weekends for my other fun job, which is the podcast work. So if you were to email or write me during the day, like from 8 to 4:30, I may not be able to respond to you, but I will definitely respond to you in the evenings.
Okay, and that's good to know because people you know want to know how they can reach you, and that's the great thing about you. You're very responsive, and I'll tell people I can write you a message or I can put a question mark, and you'll figure a way to make an answer out of the question mark without me
Yeah, even
making.
if it has to be on breaks, it's okay.
Okay. Well, once again, I want to thank you for being part of West Virginia Uncommon Place, and we hope to have you back again because we're going to have different series going on. And you told me that you're in the movies. We're going to have a movie section that I'll talk to you about later. So thank you.